Well, thank you for tuning in to Go AZ Motorcycles YouTube channel. My name is Jason and we're here at Go AZ Motorcycles in Scottsdale, Arizona, one of the 4 metric dealers in the Go AZ family of dealerships. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what we're going to call the side-by-side pre-ride checklist. This is going to be one of our great new and fun products that we're selling here at Go AZ Motorcycles in Scottsdale. Side-by-sides. This is all the rage. People love getting out on them, and we want to make sure that when you go out, you are safe even before you head out. We're going to talk a little bit about the machine and some things that we don't want to forget before we hit the trail. So thanks again for tuning in. We're going to jump into it. Let's go. All right, guys, so the first thing we always want to do before we're getting ready for a side-by-side ride is let's make sure this thing starts and runs. So we're going to reach in, we're going to grab our key, we're going to let our fuel pump cycle, and we're going to power up. All right, we're started and we're running. That's great news. Now, if you're not riding it all that often and you find yourself from time to time with a dead battery or a battery that's cycling slow and we're starting to get worried about where we're going to go and are we going to run out, I'm going to recommend you always keep a battery maintenance charger on your side-by-side battery. These things are great. It comes with that small little sub harness or pigtail. You can keep that tucked away near your battery, up in the front, up in the back, depending on your side-by-side, your battery, someplace safe. You can keep this wire safe and out of the way. It's waterproof, dustproof, shockproof, all of the things. Makes it super easy so that you can plug it in while it's in the garage, at home, or in the toy hauler, getting ready to go on your trip. But at that point, when you're ready to go on your ride, you're always going to have a 100% charged up battery. We're not going to have to worry about getting all the way out and finding out we have a dead battery. That's no fun. It's going to ruin the weekend, guys. Let's make sure that we're ready from the get-go. Once we have our side-by-side powered up, the second most important thing is, before we hit the trail, how's our fuel look? This guy is bone dry. It's because we have it on the showroom floor. But when you get out, you don't want to hit that trail, get a couple miles out and realize that you've only got a half tank or less. We want to make sure we've got enough fuel in the tank for a ride. That also brings us to one of the main accessories that you should consider when you're getting your side-by-side prepped and ready or built at the dealer before you take delivery. There's a lot of great products for auxiliary fuel tank and fuel packs. We keep a lot here. Most reputable side-by-side dealerships will. We've got a store in Flagstaff that has comprehensive inventory of these things, Cottonwood as well as our Peoria store. We're gonna have everything you need. Make sure that you've got spare fuel because, like I said, if we don't have electricity and we don't have fuel, we're not going anywhere and we don't wanna get stuck. All right, guys, let's move on to the next spot. All right, guys, now another one of these key points that we don't wanna forget is major fasteners. Are they loose? Are they tight? And how tight should they be? Your owner's manual, which should be in the glove box of all of your side-by-side machines, is going to tell you one of the most important pieces that needs to be tightened and maintained for torque on your side-by-side. This is going to be your wheel lug nuts. Now, if you've got stock wheels, aftermarket wheels, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Make sure they're tight before you go out. You don't want to lose a wheel. You don't want to destroy a hub or a rotor. It's going to ruin your control arms, your swing arms, your drive shafts, whatever the case may be. So we're gonna jump in and make sure this guy's tight. That feels good, but how good is good if it's just feel? Sometimes what we really ought to do is make sure we have the right tool for the job, you guys. This is an electronic torque wrench. Sometimes they're expensive. Sometimes you can get an inexpensive clicking style one. This one's really nice. But you guys, we really should make sure that we've got the right torque on these wheel lug nuts, you guys. Don't want to lose a wheel. You don't want to shear a lug nut because you put it on too tight because you just used your impact. Make sure they're on tight. Make sure they're on right. Let's not ruin our ride. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, guys, another key point we want to make sure we're checking before we either load or before we hit the trail is going to be our major fluids. Now, before we start doing this, we want to make sure in our owner's book, which should be in the dash like I said before, is where do we find our checkpoints for our key fluids? On this Honda Talon, we're going to start with checking our coolant levels, and that's going to be here under our front hood. Here's our coolant level and fill. We're going to check, yep, we're in between min, we're in between max. we are ready for our coolant. We are ready for our ride. We're gonna make sure this goes back on so it doesn't go flying off on us on the trail. And then we're gonna come back around. Another important fluid that we wanna check on is our engine oil. We've got an engine oil check right here. These things are normally very easy to access. There's our dipstick. Yep, we're good, guys. We're checking our things off the list. Let's not forget anything important. We've got a front and rear drive oil that we should check. We want to make sure that we've got plenty of brake fluid. We're going to inspect all of our suspension components, our shocks. We don't want them to be leaking. We don't want them to be bent. We've got tie rods. We've got control arms, front and rear. We want to make sure that our front and rear drive components aren't leaking, weeping, dry. That is definitely going to throw us off when we're on the trail. Easy things to just take a quick visual check on, but you don't want to forget them. Let's move on to the next checkpoint. All right, guys, one of the other important things that we don't want to forget is making sure that our lighting system is working and operating properly. Sometimes this takes an extra person. Tom here is going to help me out. I'm going to kick this switch on. We want to make sure that our headlights are operating. On, off, there we go. We're all good to go. And then we've got tail lights too. We don't want to forget these, guys. Now that we've got that checked, let's see what else we've got to make sure that we're ready for the trail. All right, guys, and the last thing that I'm going to touch on is really very important. We want to make sure that before we hit the trail, before we load up, we're ready with properly set tire pressure. It's really easy. We carry these inexpensive Bike Master dial style analog tire pressure gauges. You can throw them in the dash up here. You can throw them in a trail pack. Whatever it is, we want to make sure we're setting our tire pressure. This is the most important part of our suspension. This is keeping us connected to the ground. We're set, guys. Now we're going to talk about the things that we should not forget to keep in our side-by-side or on our persons before we hit the trail. All right, YouTube viewers, we're going to move on to our side-by-side kit. Now that we know that our machine is trail ready, we want to make sure that we're going to be trail ready and we're ready for anything that may happen on the trail. So I've got this nice Honda accessory cargo bag back here. We're going to open this up and see what we've got in here for treasure. First things first, if we forgot to charge our battery, we've got a battery jump box. These things are awesome. This thing could jumpstart a diesel truck. This isn't quite a diesel truck, but this is going to get the job done. Keep this in your toy hauler, keep this in your pickup truck, keep it near your side-by-side, because if this battery dies and you're on the trail, this is going to get you out in a pinch. The next thing we've got here is if you find yourself in a place where you need to be able to move some down trees. I don't know if this is going to get you through a proper tree, but this is going to get the idea across. This is a mini saw. It's going to get you out of a pinch situation. We've got a multi-tool. You never know when you can't use a multi-tool. Little fix around here, there, whatever the case may be. There are a lot of fasteners on here, these nets, the roof, plastic pieces. If we need to take them off or put them on and we're in a fix-it situation on the trail, we want to make sure we've got something to get us through. If your trail tool is not going to get you there, then you should have a packable tool kit. These cruise tool kits are really nice, you guys. They're not that expensive, but they're going to get you out of a pinch situation on a trail. Let's see what else we've got in here. A tow strap. Every side-by-side should have a tow strap in it. If your friend flips over, if you flip over, if you get stuck in a wash, in some mud, this is going to help you or your friend get out of a bad situation quickly and safely. Make sure it's not dried out. Make sure you've got a fresh one. It's nice to keep it in a Ziploc bag or the bag it may come in so that it doesn't get worn out and dried out and pop when you're pulling something through. Now we've got some worst case scenario situations here. If like this side-by-side setup we've got here doesn't have a spare tire on it, we've got a mini compressor, a plug kit, and some spare tire repair cords. This is going to get us taken care of if we're out, we get a puncture, we don't want to be on the side of the trail waiting for somebody to help us out. Punch in a plug, air back up, let's get back out there. We've got some spare chemicals here. A little bottle of oil, some Honda Pro Chemicals front and rear drive oil is going to get us there. We've got an emergency kit for first aid and survival should the worst happen, and some rock straps. These things are like the newest, latest technology in bungee strapping. If you need to tie something to the side, if you got a spare drive shaft or a spare belt that you're going to keep on the side of your frame or in the back, if you find something great on the side of the trail that you can't live without and you're going to take it with you, as long as the rangers are okay with it, strap it onto the side-by-side. These rock straps work great for everything. We always want to make sure that we've got a couple pairs of sand side-by-side built goggles. 100% makes a nice piece, as well as Oakley. We always make sure we got goggles with us. And for our furry friends, take yourself a dog dish. If we've got the pups with us and they will need to take a drink just as bad as we do, make sure you've got that with you. And then for those of you that have the communication systems built into your side-by-side, keep a spare headset with you, just in case you have one that goes bad. It's good to have some spares with you, just like the rest of these pieces I pulled out. These aren't things you should need, but these are things that you may need, and if you need them and you don't have them, we're gonna have a poor time. We wanna have an excellent time every time we go out, so make sure you got your spares. Last but not least, we're gonna jump into this side-by-side. All right, you guys, well, we've gone over some of the basics of getting these side-by-sides trail ready, making sure we've got everything we need, and making sure the machines and our trail packs are built and ready to go. Last but not least, we want to make sure that we're safe out on these trails. So we're going to pull on a helmet. Make sure we've got some cool water with us because we don't want to get dehydrated, and we're going to hit the trail. Thanks again for tuning in.